Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of composing songs for beginners. In lesson 1 I showed you how we construct the major scale, and now in lesson 2 I want to show you how we construct chords using that major scale. Thank you. Welcome to lesson 2. In lesson 1 I described how we construct the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And that was C to D is one tone. That is because between C and D there is one note, the black note known as D flat or C sharp. Similarly, between D and E, there is one black note, E flat or D sharp. So from D to E is one tone. E to F is half a tone because there is no note between E and F. F, G, one tone because there's a note between them. G to A, similarly one tone. A to B, one tone because there's B flat or A sharp between them. B to C is a semitone or half tone because there is no note between B and C. That is how all major scales are constructed. Now I want to look at chords which you can construct using this major scale. The most important chord in the key of C major is the chord which begins on C, goes up to E, and the third note is G. That chord is known as the triad. Tri because there are three notes in the chord, C, E and G. The first note of the scale of C, the third note of the scale of C major, and the fifth note of the scale of C major. Also, you can have inversions of that chord. Instead of starting on C, you can start on the second note in the chord E and have E, G, C. You can have a second inversion, which is G, C, E. And then you're back to the root position, C, E, G. The first and second inversions are a rearrangement of the notes of the chord and can be used instead of the chord in root position. The same applies whatever note you start on if it is the key note of the chord. For instance, E flat, go up two tones, one tone to F, because there is the note E between E flat and F. F to G, because you have the note G flat between F and G. Then you go up 1.5 tones. You go from G to A flat, that's half a tone. A flat to B flat is one tone because you have the note A between them. So to make the chord on E flat, the triad, it's E flat, G, B flat. That is the major triad. The next most important chord after the triad, which is constructed on the key note of C in this case, is the chord which begins on the note G. G is the fifth note in the scale of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, the importance of the chord made on G gives it the name the dominant chord. So we have, again, it's a major chord, so we go 2 tones above G. G to A is 1 tone, A to B is 2 tones, G to B, 2 tones, and then 1.5 tones from B is, well, B takes us to C, half a tone, there's no note between B and C, and then 1 tone above C is D, because we have D flat between C and D. G, B, 2 tones, D, 1.5 tones from B. So we have the most important chord in the key of C major is the triad starting on the note C. The next most important is the triad, that is the 3 chords starting on the note G. And then we can go back from G to C. Note, I'm playing an inversion of the chord C. G in root position, that is, it begins on the note itself, G, and then C chord in the first inversion, which is E, G, C. This triad, G, B, D, is called the dominant chord in the key of C major. And we often add another note to it, namely the note F, which is 1.5 tones above the top note of the triad D. So D to E is 1 tone because we have E flat between the 2 notes. E to F is half a tone because there's no note between E and F. So we have G, G, B, D, plus the extra note F. And that 7th chord, G7th as it's known, resolves into the chord of C major. The triad GBD also resolves into C major, but it's not as powerful a resolution. You feel that the chord G7th yearns to resolve into the chord of C major. The third most commonly used and therefore important chord in the key of C major is the chord which begins on the 4th note of the scale, F in this case, C, D, E, F. Again, it's a major chord, therefore it follows the same pattern as the other 2 chords, namely 2 tones from F for the 2nd note in the chord, F to G, 1 tone, G to A, 2 tones, F, A, and then 1.5 tones from A to B, 1 tone, B flat between the two notes, B to C, half a tone, no note between B and C. F, A, C. So now we have the 3 most important chords in the key of C major. The chord of C, the chord of G, with an added 7th, and the chord of F, and the chord of C again. In its first inversion, E, G, C. So now we have the 3 most commonly used and important chords in the key of C major. That is C, the triad C, C, E, G, the triad F, F, A, C, and the 4 notes known as G7th, back to C again. The reason that G7th is known as G with a 7 is because the F which we add to the triad G, B, D is 7 notes from the G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. G7. Well, that's the end of lesson 2. Well, that ends lesson 2, and in lesson 3, I'd like to teach you some more chords and also how to harmonize a simple melody using some of these chords.